Hi there. Welcome to Folk Roots Radio. I'm Jan Hall. Great to be here again for another video interview. I think I'm calling this Folk Roots Radio Live. Oh, I'm still working out exactly what it's going to be. But, I've been doing video interviews for the last couple of years. And every time I do them, I think, wouldn't it be great if people could actually listen and watch live while it's happening? And I've always thought, that would be such a cool thing. Well, it's now happening. And you know something? This is like it used to be when I started out in radio back in the day, especially when I started at CFRU in Guelph, because I used to love having people join me in the studio. And I remember in my early days, I would have real problems working with the board and wondering what the heck I was supposed to be doing. But it was always great, you're having a live guest because you can really feed off the energy in the room. So this is not exactly the same because my guests are far away. But the neat thing is, even though they're far away, they can actually be here in our virtual studio. So I am very excited about that. Now, today we have an interview with Moira Smiley. Moira has just released a fabulous new album. It's entitled In Our Voices with her vocal group, VOCO. 12 songs that utilize predominantly voice and body percussion to share a powerful anti-racist message. It's an absolutely fabulous album, and I'm really looking forward to being able to talk to Moira today. But before we get there, let's play one of the songs from the album. This is Moira Smiley with How Can I Cry from her wonderful new album, In Our Voices. And you're listening to Folk Roots Radio, and I'm Jan Hall.
The troubles in my life just ain't worth a dime. Oh, sisters and brothers, forgive me for the things I say. I'm losing the meaning, yeah, I'm losing sense of night and day. The sun that I'm seeing, it is the same around the earth. So why is our freedom ruled by our birth? And how can I cry about freedom when I lived a whole life of liberty? And how can I sing about suffering and pain? I sing for all the souls who do not complain. Oh, tomorrow and justice, they seem so high and far away. Where people are hungry, mistreated each and every day. Whatever can I do? I'm standing here on solid ground. I sing for the silent people. Lord, hear our sound. And I'm wondering why the blues and the blacks and the grays are covering my world. What is the mystery of the dark that you stay so long away? Why are my sisters singing songs of the pain so beautifully? Why are my brothers crying tears is of silence so helplessly. And how can I cry about freedom when I lived a whole life of liberty? And how can I sing about suffering and pain? I sing for all the souls who do not complain, who do not complain.
That is Moira Smiley with her fabulous vocal group, VOCO, with How Can I Cry from their wonderful new album. It is entitled In Our Voices. Moira Smiley travels the world creating new works for voices and accompanying her performance with her banjo, accordion, and piano, and what I absolutely love, this wonderful percussive movement. And when she's not leading her own vocal group, well, she records and performs with people like Yards, Jayme Stone and Irish supergroup SOLAS. And VOCO features two Canadians, Vancouver soul dynamo Dawn Pemberton and vocalist and choir leader Karla Mundy, alongside Long Beach-based creators Gregory, Fletcher and Asaro. In Our Voices features 12 songs that utilize predominantly voice and body percussion to share a really, really powerful anti-racist message. It's a great album, and to learn more about the project, we're pleased to welcome Moira Smiley to Folk Roots Radio. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you, Jan, for having me. What a pleasure.
Well, this is a fabulous album. I'm just pleased to be able to talk to you about it today. So, you've been making music for a long time. I mentioned some of the people that you have performed with and recorded with. We'll talk a little bit about all of the things you're up to later on. But this project, I get the sense that, with the situation that we're in, I mean, we're in the midst of the George Floyd trial in Minneapolis. We had the Black Lives Matters protests from last year because of the real concerns about social injustice, and particularly the way that African Americans were treated, compared to people white, and a lot of issues there. You've come out with a fairly bold statement, because you wanted to make this album with a really strong anti-racist message. So tell us a little bit about where you were going with this, because obviously this album must have predated a lot of what's happened in the last year or so.
Yeah. I mourn the fact that these issues of racism and brutality and othering have been around for a long time, of course. We keep on working on them, but failing to really eradicate that in ourselves or in our societies, in our structures. And so I think as an introverted, sensitive type who likes to write music, it was something that was painful to me for a long time. So, and I think that's where the songs are springing from. There, that sense of that helplessness, that sense of responsibility, has been there for a while. I think "How Can I Cry" was an old song that maybe was the first try for me to write about that feeling of looking around me and seeing the world shadowed in injustice, inequality, and trying to figure out my place, especially as a singer who asks other people to listen to her. I often think, what am I doing being up here getting listened to, and what is the singing for? So that's what that song started. It's really a song that started me on the journey of of keeping my ear, I guess, to the ground, and trying to pitch in when I can by using my voice.
So the songs on this album, 12 songs, over what period of time did you collect them?
I would say How Can I Cry is the oldest by far. And that song was made in my 20s. Actually, I think I wrote it before I turned 20. Otherwise, I think most of the songs have been, most of my originals on there are in the last 4 or 5 years. And then we're going to talk about Oh Susanna later. That's a song that came to me via Dawn Pemberton, who is featured on the album. And that I think I heard her do that only a year ago. So I'd say between, I guess from my 20s to now, but mostly in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, one of the things I love about this is the a cappella, but also this body percussion as well. Tell us a little bit about working with VOCO. I mean, I was, as a Canadian, I was really pleased to see that you had 2 Canadians part of this project. One of them you mentioned, Canada's Queen of Soul, Dawn Pemberton from Vancouver, amazing voice, but also Karla Mundy in there. And then you've got Gregory and Jake from California. When did you start working with these people?
Only fairly recently with this group as a whole. Karla and Dawn and I met via the song you played, How Can I Cry? I believe that Karla found it on an album with my a cappella group and then chose to do it with her a cappella group, of which Dawn was a member, called the No Shit Shirleys. And they recorded it on their album many years ago, like a decade ago. And we became friends, and I would come up to Vancouver and work with Karla's choirs and Dawn's choirs and share concerts with them. So that's been a long relationship. And I've gained so much by being in relationship to those 2 women, Karla Mundy and Dawn Pemberton. And then Gregory Fletcher, I met via an amazing group in Los Angeles, but only a couple of years ago, I think in 2018. And we sang together when I did a concert releasing my previous album, Unzip the Horizon. And Gregory is an extraordinary musician, can sing from the deepest well up to the highest star. He has this incredible range. He, is extremely fluid with it, but he's got this natural way of, I guess it's just musicality, and it astonishes me what he does because in this ensemble, he sang bass. In other ensembles, he sings tenor, maybe soprano. But in this ensemble, he took those bass lines that I'd written and really, moved them around and made them so beautiful and human and lyrical and badass, virtuosic. So he's the one who connected me to Jake, who is a similar singer, very fluid, and exact, precise ability to sing, but then this ability to move and push and pull with you. And so it was an exciting thing when Gregory and Jake signed on, and Karla and Dawn seemed like I knew I'd wanted to work with them already, and I wanted this ensemble that I could learn from, both culturally and musically. And so that was the reason I asked these 4 people.
So how did you record the album? I mean, obviously, you're in Vermont, California, and then out in British Columbia. Where did you actually record?
So we went, we gathered a couple of times in LA to rehearse. Actually, I think only one time in person before a tour that I'd booked. And the tour was in March of 2020. And we started in Vancouver and then went down to Texas and across the South. And at the end of that tour, we were planning to go into a nice studio to record. And miraculously, we got to do all that. We literally recorded the last song as everything was shutting down. and then we had to rebook our flights and fly out the next day. So I don't think we really cut our tour short. I think we cut the session short a little bit at the end. So it was right there, March 11, 12, 13, when everything was closing down because of the
just in
pandemic.
time. Yeah.
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 So
Well, I love the album. It's really powerful. We'll talk a little bit about what happens next in
yeah.
a few moments. But I wanted you're sitting there with the banjo,
Yeah.
in case anyone hasn't noticed. And
This
I
is
thought it would be
Hazel.
kind of fun to give you a chance to play something. Now, one of the songs we're not playing today is the fabulous Days of War. We played it on Folk Roots Radio before. It's got a great video. And when this radio interview goes out as a radio episode, I will make sure that I add the video back in, because
Oh,
it's
thank
a
you.
really, really powerful song. You have some collaborators on it. I think it was
Yes.
written, with Seamus Egan.
Yes.
And
So,
then
and
also,
Sam Amadon.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about how this song came together.
This song was written by Seamus and myself. He, came up with this shape on his guitar. And I was recently, struggling with the events of Charlottesville, and the destruction and the white supremacy that sort of rose up there, and I wrote the lyrics in response to that. And I then asked Sam to sing the part of the human, because it's a conversation between sort of myself, or a human, and a bird. Because I noticed that on those dark days, when the human world seems very dark and hate-filled, that the birds do keep singing.
And he has a lovely vocal on this, and there's a lovely fragility to the way he sings.
Yeah, Sam's voice is just got that kind of searching, but almost like there's this wildness also to the way he sings, and I asked him to sing a little bit of just vocalizing at the end, so you hear that in the recording, just us kind of just singing, and then Seamus, you can hear playing the guitar, little juicy bits. There's a percussion by a Vermont percussionist named Caleb Bronze, and the video was actually made by a young London artist, the daughter of my dear friend Joe Phillips, who's a beautiful bass player, played with Jayme Stone, and Joe's daughter Eloise Phillips made the animation for that video. Lots of Canada.
Well, we're going to play live. So this is Moira Smiley with Days of War on Folk Roots Radio.
Sit with me, birdie, in the tall tree. The news is bad and there's no relief. How do you fly to the enemy? Sing your song so tenderly. When I fly to the enemy, fear is high 'cause you don't agree, and tempers flare, and the cry is war. No one listens anymore. These days of war. These days of war. Little bird, do you fly in fear, up and away from the hatred here? Do you see a meeting ground between our camps where you touched down? Oh yes, sometimes I fly in fear, and I sing so softly so you cannot hear. I sometimes see your meeting ground beneath the smoke and the battle sounds, yeah. These days of war, yeah. These days of war. Little bird, why do you fly away and leave me alone in this silent day? And how do you sing in these days of war? No one listens anymore. Will I fly because I must carry on, to love, to feed, to make my home? And I sing to know that love is near, because anger holds the hand of fear. Yeah, I sing to know that love is near, because anger holds the hand of fear. Yeah, I sing to know that love is near. Come, courage, take the hand of fear. Yeah. These days of war. And these days of war. These days of war. These days of war.
Wow, that was fabulous. That's Moira Smiley with a live version of Days of War. It's a fabulous song from a great album, which is entitled In Our Voices, from Moira Smiley and VOCO. Moira, that was fabulous. It's great to have you with us today. And, you know, I love projects like this because I love it really feels collaboratory, that this is truly a group of people coming together. I mean, obviously you are giving the direction, you are the main songwriter on the project, but also I feel like you recognize the value of the different voices, the value of the different players, and bring it all together.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
fact that you were able to record this before we ended up going into this series was well, kind of, you toured with VOCO before actually recording the album. I kind of wonder, I'm almost feel like I'm going to ask a question. Well, if we hadn't been in a pandemic, what would you have been doing now? Or what do you hope to do once we're out of a pandemic?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, what I would have been doing is probably traveling a lot, There, across the last decade, there have been several years where I didn't even need to have a home because I was just on the road so much. And I love it. I love being on the road. And this year for sure taught me how to be at home. And if there wasn't a pandemic, I'd be out there playing probably more. And I kind of lead a double life, as I also am a composer for choruses, for choirs. So I'm a choral composer, and I run a publishing business. So um, in that role, I teach and I coach ensembles that will do this music, a lot of the music that's on In Our Voices, because it's for not just one voice to sing, but many voices to sing. And so I would probably be doing some of that too, doing a residency well, for instance, at Western University in London, or doing a vocal festival or a folk festival. So I think what the future for me feels like some of that. And then also I love being here and visiting my mother, to be honest. I mean, this is very sort of plain to say, but I love being in this place, which is Vermont, and really being here a little bit more. And this morning I was out in my back hill, digging up the dirt so that I can build a stone wall, like a real old style, um, the way
Like
they
a
use
true stone wall.
a
Yeah.
true stone wall. Yeah, just with a dry. They think they call that a dry stack. So
Yeah. Yeah.
doing that kind of thing is part of the plan.
And I think obviously that keeps you grounded, because I know a lot of people, um,
Yeah,
have found this period of time is challenging for their mental health, and I'm definitely including me in
yeah,
that category. I hope everybody out there listening to this is doing okay, and
yeah,
we wish them all our best. But it's just hard, right? And I think for musicians, the fact that if you had been depending on making an album and just getting out and being able to play it, you'd feel really, I mean, at a really stuck, I think, in the
yeah,
situation we're in. At least you have diversified, but that's something you've been doing for years, right? I
yeah.
mean, not only do you work on your own music, played with Jayme Stone, you are currently playing with Tune Yards, and I think
Mhm.
recently I caught you on Jimmy Kimmel, and
Yeah.
before the interview, you were saying you're on Stephen Colbert as well, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, Tune Yards I toured with between 2014, 2016. And then that was on the Nicky Knack album tour. And then they made another album, which actually I sang on a little bit, but we didn't tour. They toured as a trio. And then I was lucky to be asked to do um, work on this album that's just come out in the last couple of weeks, which is called Sketchy. And it's vocally Meryl Garbus is an incredible writer, so it's such a pleasure to be a singer and sing with her. And she has a voice that can do anything, and she uses it really fearlessly, really thoughtfully. And so yeah, we were
Find
just
that a
out.
bit of change for you,
So yeah, say that again.
Do you find it's a bit of a change? Do you find it's a bit of a change for you when you are working with someone else? Bringing your vocals to their project rather than working on your own. I mean, is it one of those situations where a change is as good as a rest from your point of view? It does. I'm just
Interesting.
curious as to what effect it has on you.
That's a really great question. Is a change as good as a rest? I think that's a really apt way of describing it. I think it has been in some ways for me. Um, I personally find it somewhat difficult to lead. I do it a lot, and I have done always. I'm fiercely independent, but I also have, I'm very sensitive to people, and I find, if there's that I find I mean, this is quite personal, but it's like a little bit painful for me often to be in a position of leadership because of the darts that can get thrown at you, or the sort of you just have to field a lot more human emotion coming at you in unexpected ways. And so for that reason, I really like working with other creators and collaborating, um, and also working just plain old working for somebody. Um, and I've been lucky in that I've been willing to do the work myself. So I have a going business. I am busy just doing my own thing, um, but I really do enjoy taking a break from myself for sure.
And I think that, now, I mean, you can still, although, the pandemic is still unfortunately with us. I mean, you're playing live stream shows and getting
Yeah.
involved. One of the things I love living in this Zoom world is the fact that, you mentioned choirs and trying to get them to, encourage them maybe to look at some of your songs
Yeah.
and create their own versions.
Yeah.
That must be a fun thing to,
So
because you're
fun.
you're interested in the choir side of things, to be able to engage people that way.
It is so fun for me, and I get a lot of energy from that process, which I've given myself over to for the ever since the album is released. Now I have like 30 different ensembles, that are working on various songs on the album and making videos of them. So a lot of my work has been actually preparing scores for them and preparing study parts and like MP3s, with each part. So I mean, I don't love that part because it's a lot of time just kind of fiddling with notes on a page and fiddling with sounds in a recording program. But the impact of having your music in other people's voices and bodies, that's amazing. It's the coolest thing. I think it's my favorite thing. Yeah.
No, that is great. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us today. I love the album. It's truly fabulous. I want to encourage as many people listening to this as possible to check out In Our Voices from Moira Smiley and VOCO. It's really fabulous. And it's great in headphones. I definitely recommend, because you've got so much going on. And,
Yeah.
the interesting thing is voice and body percussion, and then really simple instrumentation. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very much a vocal album, just absolutely fabulous.
Thank you, Jan. And I should give credit to Dave Weber of Airtime Studios is the one who mixed it and edited it with
Yeah,
me.
he did a great job. Well, and one of the things I do love about this project is the fact that you have allowed the members of VOCO to really be part of this. We're going to finish with a version of a song that a lot of people will be familiar with. That's Stephen Foster's "Oh Susanna," traditional song that has been sung many times. I think only now are we realizing that, there were some issues with this song in the past, but I think it's been reclaimed. The interesting thing, as you mentioned earlier in the interview, that Dawn Pemberton from Canada actually brought this song to the project. She sings the lead on it. But tell us a little bit more about why you wanted to get Oh Susanna on here.
Dawn Pemberton sang this in the VOCO shows on the tour in last March. And she sang it by herself at the piano, and we would stand off at the side stage, just like weeping and just looking at each other, because she sang it with such tenderness. And she always told the story of really reclaiming this as a song about love between two Black people, and reclaiming that resilience and power that is Black culture choosing love in spite of brutality over and over and over again. And that as on a very personal level, in a romantic relationship, but on a wider love level as well, which is a very powerful, fierce act. And I feel like she encapsulates that in this retelling of a song that definitely pulled in, it was a white man making fun of and that culture, parodying it, or so it's kind of saying, it's putting the hand up to that history. It's acknowledging the history of white supremacy that's in that song and in its popularity, and saying, here's what this really is about. This is about love between two Black people.
And it's a great video too, which we're going to finish with. Moira Smiley, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Likewise.
This is Moira Smiley and VOCO with Oh Susanna from their wonderful new album, In Our Voices, with a lead vocal from Dawn Pemberton from Canada. You're listening to Folk Roots Radio, and I'm Jan Hall. And Moira, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you so much for your wonderful questions and for having me, Jan. Thanks for doing this.
Bye.
come from Alabama. This old banjo on my knee. I'm headed toward Louisiana for my true love to see. It rained all night the day we left. The weather was bone dry. Hey. The sun so hot I nearly froze myself. Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. 'Cause I come from Alabama with this old banjo on my knee. I had a dream the other night when everything was still. I dreamt I saw my sweet Susanna coming down the hill. A buckwheat cake was in her mouth, and a tear was in her eye. I'm coming home from the south. Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. 'Cause I come from Alabama with this old banjo. This old banjo, this old banjo on my knee. This old banjo on my knee.